Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest, and I welcome back a very special guest. She was the former captain of the Robert Morris women's hockey team, where she helped lead the team to the CHA championship last season, and she will be heading off to Ohio State next year and will be part of that team as they try to win another WCHA title. Lexi Templeman, welcome back to the podcast, and how's everything going?
It's going really good, thanks. And thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be back on here and get to talk to you again.
Yeah, no problem. It means a lot for me for coming back on. So obviously a lot has happened, like I was telling you before the recording started since we last talked. But besides all the hockey stuff, what else have you been up to really since we last spoke about a year ago?
Besides hockey, just kind of navigating through the pandemic along with everyone else. But this summer, I've just kind of trying to have fun with my family, like hang out with some of my friends, and then also making the move from Pittsburgh to Columbus.
Yeah, and how's that been like just COVID-wise? Because I know things are starting to head back to normal, but have you been doing anything that you've normally haven't gotten the chance to do in the past year recently?
Um, I went home back to Canada for a little bit, and things were starting to open up there. So that was really nice. More restaurants being open and able to do more things with my friends and family. But hopefully things continue to move in the right direction as far as COVID-wise and restrictions. But yeah, it's just kind of been nice to relax a little bit since the season ended and gear up for the next season.
Now, how's the move been like from Pittsburgh to Columbus, and what's Columbus like as a city? Because believe it or not, I've actually never been to the mid part of the U.S., which is crazy to think about for myself.
Yeah, so the move has kind of been a little bit crazy. I've had to do most of it on my own as my parents aren't able to make it here from Canada due to the pandemic. So it's kind of just been a couple trips back and forth from Pittsburgh to Columbus. But Columbus as a city is really nice. It's beautiful. And then, of course, like Ohio State is kind of like its own city within the city kind of thing. So um, I haven't really got to explore much of Columbus, so I can't touch too much on what it's like. But from what I've seen, it's really nice.
Yeah, I know. And are you excited to explore the city a little bit? Obviously, it's kind of like a hockey town, which some people might not realize with the Blue Jackets being there, and obviously with Ohio State's hockey programs as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to, kind of meet my team and then kind of settle in and hopefully get them to show me around a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now let's start off talking about the situation with Robert Morris for a little bit. So when the news came out that the program was going to be canceled, what was your initial reaction to that news, and how have you handled it since it broke a couple of months ago?
Yeah, so initially when it all kind of came out, I was in complete shock. We got an email on Wednesday, May 26th. I think it was at 12:45, and it just kind of said like that there was an important student athlete meeting. So none of us really thought too much of it. We didn't know who was going to be on the call or anything. Honestly, some people threw out the idea that we could be getting a look at our championship rings from last year. Like nobody really had an idea what it's about. So it caught everyone really off guard. And the meeting was at 1:45, and they kind of just jumped on for 10 minutes and told us that our programs were cut, and that was the end of it. So there wasn't really any explanation given, just that the programs were cut. And so it took us all really by shock. Some of my teammates were at work during the day, so weren't able to even make it on the call, and we're kind of texting being like, oh, what was the meeting about? And, you have to break the news to them, like, you may never get to play hockey again. Like your college hockey could be done. Your whole hockey career could be done just in the blink of an eye. So it was really challenging and really shocking for us all. And since then, I've obviously been trying to get myself sorted out, and I landed myself a spot on Ohio State, which is I'm super excited about. But I've also been trying to help my teammates and help them navigate other places to play and kind of allow them to land on their feet as well.
Now, has the university given the players any explanation at all of why they decided to cancel the program?
So about a week later, I think it was June 1st, we got another email, and it was like it was a meeting for that night, I think around 7 p.m., and it was supposed to be for a question and answer with our president. And so the meeting consisted of some staff, the president, the athletic director, and then both men's and women's ice hockey teams, as well as coaching staff. And it was a lot of questions being asked, but a lot of beating around the bush. It kind of seemed like there was no direct answers given, which was really frustrating for I know myself and all of my colleagues as well. So since then, there really hasn't been many answers. They did work out sort of an agreement, what we thought was an agreement. They said $7 million over the next 5 years, I think it was, as far as a number to raise. So, but that just came out like mid-July that they asked for that. So it had been almost 2 months before they even answered to like an amount of money that needed to be raised. So until then, we really didn't even know for sure that it was a money issue. There was no kind of direct relationship to as to what it was that kind of got our program cut.
Yeah, that was my next question I want to ask you was, did they ever let the players voice their concerns about the decision that was made? And obviously you mentioned that there was the Zoom call. So what was being said during that Zoom call from both the men's and women's hockey team perspective, and how did they handle that in that meeting?
Yeah, there was just a lot of concern from people as to why they cut the program so suddenly. Um, and when you look back on the events that have happened at RMU over the last year, it seems as though this was planned, like pre-planned, premeditated, not just a decision as of May 26th and like, hey, this is our decision, this is what we're going to do, and we better tell them. It seemed when you look back at the events that have happened, like they added a cross-country team in, and shortly later we found out that if they would have just cut us and the men's team and didn't add a team in, they would have fell below the amount of teams needed to be considered a Division I institution. So it just kind of, to us all, seemed like it was pre-planned long in advance. But why weren't we let know? Why wasn't there any talk? Why weren't we even given the opportunity to fundraise? So I think those were a lot of questions asked, like, why can't we have one more year? And if we don't fundraise enough money, like, then you can cut us. That kind of gives us all closure and a chance to land on our feet somewhere else. It was just very frustrating for people because the transfer portals this year were already like overwhelmingly full, as you can imagine, with granted the extra year of eligibility due to COVID. So there was a lot of fifth years staying and then incoming freshmen still coming in. So the opportunity to transfer was very slim for a lot of people. So which made it that much harder for everyone, both on our team and the men's team.
Yeah, no, that's what I felt the most bad for in the whole situation was the incoming freshman for Robert Morris, just because they're trying to get used to that whole college hockey environment. And then all of a sudden they're not even a part of a team anymore. And they have to kind of navigate trying to find a new team in such a short amount of time too. Have you tried to help those freshmen? I don't know if you had the chance to meet them before, but how have they tried to navigate that situation, trying to find a new school to play hockey in?
Yeah, so I can't really speak from the perspective of the men's team, but I know for the incoming freshmen that were supposed to be coming into our team, I had reached out to them probably only a couple weeks before the program got cut, just kind of welcoming them and like asking them if they had any questions, just telling them, here's my number, here's my email, reach out to me if you need anything. And then since the program got cut, we've had probably 3 Zoom calls with our team from last year. Just kind of, talking, getting updates on people, like giving resources if people need anything or contact information. But luckily, most of them have landed on their feet and found a spot to play next year, which has been awesome. I'm really happy for them. And I hope they do awesome wherever they ended up. There are a couple of them that haven't found spots yet, and I do believe they plan on taking a postgrad year in high school and kind of taking that year to look elsewhere and hopefully find a spot for the following year.
Now, from the news that broke in May, is there anything personally you have done to try to help bring the program back for future generations? Because you mentioned to me before how they have the fundraiser, they're trying to build the fundraiser back up to bring the program back. And to me, it seemed odd why they canceled it, just because the success that the women's team had, winning the CHA championship last year, 3 players getting drafted in the NWHL draft. And then obviously for the men's perspective, hosting the Frozen Four. So it just seemed odd that this kind of happened all of a sudden. I know you said it seemed planned, but to me, it seemed like it just happened all of a sudden, especially with the recent success that happened with both programs.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like, we were really caught off guard by it all. Like, we had no idea, obviously, it was coming, but there's just some things. And I mean, obviously, we could be looking too far into it by saying this, but you obviously try and dig a little deeper when things like this happen. And obviously, we don't have all the answers, but it just seems like there's something more to it, and that it's just not a decision you make at the snap of your fingers. So it's tough to know. I mean, only the people that made the decision really know the full truth behind it. So, I mean, we may never find out the full truth. But as far as spreading awareness, just for me, I've just kind of been sharing information on social media. And I've reached out to my old assistant coach, Logan Biddle, and he just asking him kind of like what we can do to help. And I think that it's just important to keep spreading that awareness on social media, and making people aware that there is a fundraiser, trying to get people to donate money, and just trying to bring awareness to the situation and not let it die down, and continue to keep it at the forefront of people's thoughts.
Now, what's it currently looking like for the fundraiser, and how confident are you that RMU hockey will be back in the near future?
I'm pretty confident. Like, I think that there's a really good chance that it will come back, just because there is such a big support group, and we were Pittsburgh's college hockey teams. So I think that as far as like the Pittsburgh area and people and supporters that we have and fans that we have, I think there is a good chance that it will come back, and I hope in the near future. I hope sooner rather than later. But as far as like getting people to know more about it, and I feel like we can get donations maybe from bigger places like the Penguins, Steelers. Hopefully people like them step in. I'm not exactly sure what the money count fundraising is at quite yet, because a lot of them are private donations, but I do, from my understanding, they do have a lot of private donations. Just no number exactly has been released.
Now, what can the listeners do to try to help bring Robert Morris hockey back in the near future? I know you know way more than I would, so that's why I want to leave the floor to you on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think just donate money if they're able to, and if they aren't able to, just continue to share posts on social media and bring awareness to the situation, so we can kind of make it globally, like reach everywhere. There is a Instagram account and a Twitter account called PGHCHF, so Pittsburgh Hockey College Foundation, and people can give that account a follow and just kind of repost some of their postings, and it kind of gives updates on where they're at a little bit with the fundraising, and it just kind of reminisces on some of the good times, posting pictures and some of the championships we've won and some of the successes of the athletes, and kind of reasons why the program should be brought back. So if anyone's looking for a reason, if you don't already have some reasons why it should be brought back, definitely head over there and donate if you're able to.
Yeah, it's good for college hockey too to have as much programs as possible, especially in the Pittsburgh area, because I didn't personally attend the Frozen Four in Pittsburgh, but from people that I know that did, it says the hockey in Pittsburgh is pretty awesome, and it's just growing, especially with your program and then with the Penguins as well. So hopefully we can bring a college hockey team back there at Robert Morris, and I think that's just good for the sport of hockey and for the growth of women's hockey as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Pittsburgh, it's such an awesome city. I loved it for the 4 years that I was there. And like you said, like it is such a hockey place as well. So with the Penguins being there, and we were Pittsburgh's college hockey team. So hopefully they are able to bring college hockey back to Pittsburgh, just because it is such a hockey city, and there's so many supporters there that would love to have it back.
Now, speaking of your program and the success it had, I was mentioning this earlier, but 3 of your former teammates got drafted in the NWHL draft. What was your reaction when you saw that they got drafted, and how excited should those teams be to have those players with their team, especially Leah Marino going to Toronto 6? I thought that was a really cool pick.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for all three of them. I was thrilled when I heard their names announced. I was watching it actually live with Angelica Diffendale. I was at her house. I was in Pittsburgh at the time, and I was able to go to her house and watch it with her family and relatives, and it was just awesome. She was so happy. It's just awesome to see that all their hard work has kind of paid off, and they're getting recognized at the next level. So Buffalo should be thrilled to have both Angelica and Emily Harley. Um, they're both outstanding people as well as outstanding athletes. So they definitely got two really good picks there. And then the Toronto Six, obviously getting Leah, they should be thrilled as well. She's such an awesome human and an amazing player, and she'll definitely bring a lot of energy and skill to that team. So yeah, they should be thrilled to have her. And she was the youngest player ever drafted in the draft, I believe, which is awesome. And I mean, um, that's kind of that is huge coming out of a program like Robert Morris, and even more the reason to bring the program back when you have successes like that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking on your personal career, you're going to Ohio State for next season. What was the transfer process like for you, and what made you want to go to Ohio State? Because you were saying how the transfer portal was very filled up and it was kind of challenging to figure out which teams were interested and which teams you would have a chance to have a roster spot at.
Yeah, so the transfer process was pretty overwhelming. Obviously, it's different for each person, but I think for me and all of my teammates, there was a time crunch behind it all because we weren't let know about the cutting of our program until the end of May. There's only so much time until August comes around and you start classes, and there's a lot to do going to a new school between May and August. So it wasn't like you could sit around and just kind of wait forever until you found a spot. So it was really overwhelming there for about a 2 week period. I went on the transfer portal the night that our program got cut. I didn't really exactly know what I was going to do at that point because I have graduated with my undergraduate degree, but I wanted to play another year of college hockey just because we have the eligibility. And so my options kind of at that point were to transfer and play elsewhere or go back to RMU, finish my master's, and then without playing hockey. So I decided to enter the transfer portal on May 26th that night, a couple hours after that meeting that we had announcing the cancellation of our programs. And yeah, I got contacted by a couple schools, and I just felt like Ohio State would be the perfect fit for me. Out of the schools that reached out to me, just location wise, it's close to home. It's only about 5.5 hours. Just the success that their hockey team has had within the past couple of years, as well as the academics and the just high class facilities and everything there. It was kind of like the perfect spot for me to land.
Yeah, and have you gotten the chance to meet any of your new teammates yet? I know, it seems like to me, from my perspective, Ohio State's getting a lot of transfers going into the team next year with the Olympic centralization and with the big senior class that left last year. So have you gotten the chance to meet players like Claire DeGeorge? Obviously, you know Reagan Kirk is going there next year as well. So have you gotten the chance to meet some of your teammates at Ohio State yet, like whether it's in person or through Zoom?
Yeah, so we've had a couple team Zoom calls, which has been awesome, and kind of just let everyone introduce themselves just because, like you said, there are actually a lot of transfers going there, which will be nice for me because it puts me in a position where I'm not like the only one. So I'm not kind of the only new person. There'll be lots of transfers as well as a couple freshmen. So it'll be awesome. I'm really excited. And then I haven't had the chance to meet Claire yet in person, but I have had the chance to meet a couple other girls. I was down here moving in. So I'm back in Columbus now, but I was one of my trips from Pittsburgh to Columbus. I was here in the middle of July, and I was just getting a physical done and stuff like that, like just a couple things that you need to do to in order to be able to like play and work out and stuff. So I was just getting a couple little items checked off my checklist, and I was able to meet some of the girls that were down here for the summer, which was awesome. They all seem super nice, and I really can't wait to get started with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are your goals and expectations for yourself and for your team next season?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, for me personally, I just want to continue to bring my playing style as well as like high energy and really do whatever I can to contribute to the team. Obviously, I'm not exactly sure what role I'm going to be put in yet, but whatever role it's going to be, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help win a national championship.
And you're kind of an odd spot leadership wise because you're a new player on the team. However, you're one of the most experienced players on the team. So, what type of leadership are you going to try to bring to Ohio State next year? Are you going to try to be just a lead by example type of player? Or are you going to try to be vocal when you think is need be?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little bit of both. Obviously, I'm a type of player that I do like to lead by example, and I like to show a lot of hard work and hope that others will follow in my footsteps as well. So I'm definitely going to be a lead by example, and I think that I'm going to be a vocal leader as well. Obviously, not overstepping or anything. Like I am also new here, but I think that you're only new for about the first week, and then you're all one team. And I think that's one thing that's really important is that there really isn't classes for very long as far as like freshman, sophomore. Like we're all one team, and there's not just the people that wear the letters that are the leaders on the team. Obviously, they have bigger responsibilities in a lot of aspects, but like you said, I am going to be one of the most experienced players here. So I think that my expectations are higher than just a new person coming in, and I'm going to be expected of big things. And I think that I'm ready to take on that challenge.
Now, you're obviously going to be playing under Coach Nadine Mazeral. What have you known about her before you went to Ohio State, and how excited are you to play under her? And just talk about the coaching style that she has from your experience watching Ohio State.
Yeah, so I actually got to play against Ohio State my freshman year. We played a home and home series with them. So I was able to play against her and against her team. And she's an awesome person, and she's very competitive, but she builds a team culture like no other. And I think that's something that one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is the culture that is built here at Ohio State is one like no other. Um, Everyone is seriously a family, and like a lot of people just say that, but like I already feel like I'm such a like so welcome here and such a big part of this team, and we haven't even got started yet. So I think that she's a really competitive person, and I think because of that she builds really successful teams and teams that win championships, because when you're competitive and you have that hardworking drive, and you mix that with a really good team culture, you're setting yourself up for success.
Now, from your experience, what's the biggest difference of playing style between the CHA and the WCHA? And do you think that's going to be an adjustment for yourself heading into a new conference next year?
I think one of the biggest differences between the two conferences is the physicality of the WCHA. I think that um, they're a lot tougher, and I think Ohio State as a whole too, as a team, is really tough and really gritty and works really hard. And I think that actually fits really well with my playing style. I may not be the biggest player, but I work really hard, and I'm willing to, get in the dirty areas and be tough and be gritty. So I think it's a very, very competitive league. The teams there are all very good, and usually it's a very tight race as far as standings wise. So I'm really looking forward to the challenge there. And I think it'll be a step up from what I played in the last 4 years, but I'm really excited for the challenge.
Yeah, and you're playing against teams that are competing for a national championship every week, pretty much going against teams like Wisconsin and Minnesota on a week to week basis. So I'm assuming you're excited for that challenge as well. And is that something you're trying to work on in the off season? Is just trying to work on your puck battle skills, get tough in the corners, stuff like that? Is that what you noticed about the WCHA playing against those type of teams, like just the little things like that?
Yeah, I that's definitely something I've been working on in the off season, as well as like my shot, and just trying to do everything I can to contribute to the team for next year. But definitely getting tougher, getting stronger. That's always really important, and just working on every aspect of the game. Just doing whatever you can in the off season to try and bring your absolute best game back in the fall, so that we can win a national championship. And I do believe that getting bigger, getting stronger, and having the ability to win those tough battles and corner battles and is what's going to win championships.
Now, watching you play for the past 4 years, I think you're one of the most complete players I've ever seen play, especially in college hockey. So my question is, what is one area of your game that you think you need to improve on the most heading into next season?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. One thing I think for me is going to be my shot. Just talking with the coaching staff here at Ohio State, I'm more of like a playmaker, I would call myself. Just I have a good vision of the ice, I feel like, so I'm able to find open players really easily. But my shot is definitely something I want to work on because it's something I need to do more. And that's just something we talked about when I talked with the coaching staff about, everyone's got to be a goal scorer. If you're in that spot to shoot, like you're going to have to shoot. Like you need to shoot, like shoot to score kind of thing. So I think that for me, my shot's been really something that I'm working on and working it on going into the season so that I'm able to score more goals and contribute more for this upcoming season. And again, helping us win that national championship.
Now, let's transition a little bit and talk about this past season with Robert Morris that you were just a part of. Now, obviously, this past season's college hockey season was a lot different because of the challenges that were brought because of the pandemic. One of those challenges was the schedule changes that happened, especially in the CHA towards the beginning of the season. How did you personally deal with all those schedule changes, and what was the key for maintaining flexibility for this past season?
Yeah, I think one of the keys and I think a lot of people learned it over the past year, is just having that flexibility and coming in with an open mindset. If your mindset is, I'm set, like this is when I am playing, this is when I have to play kind of thing, you would have really struggled through the last year just because with COVID, you really had no idea what games were going to happen, what games weren't, if you're going to be in quarantine, if you're able to practice kind of thing. So just having an open mindset and a good mindset that every time you step on the ice, you're thankful for the opportunity. And I think that was a mindset that our whole team kind of started to have throughout the year. And I think it's something that really helped, just being thankful for the opportunity and every time you got to do it, because you really never knew when it could be your last time possibly on the ice if everything got shut down again. So I think that mindset really helped us as far as games, practices, like just changing schedules, just being thankful for every game and playing it like it was our last, because it very well could be. So it kind of was a good mindset that our whole team kind of had last year and helped make us successful.
And you were mentioning to me earlier in the podcast how you loved the Robert Morris hockey community and it kind of made you enjoy your college hockey experience there a lot more. So not playing in front of any fans this past year, how did you handle that? And was it a bit odd not having that crowd noise during home games this past season?
Yeah, it was definitely weird playing in completely bare arenas everywhere we went. But I think it made us appreciate our fans that much more when we were able to have them. Sometimes you take things like that for granted. And I know like my first 3 years there, they were normal and we were able to play in front of fans, and you don't really think it's that big of a deal. You're just kind of like, oh yeah, it's whatever. But last year made me really appreciate, the times where we are able to have fans, because it is really silent and it is really kind of eerie playing in front of no fans and no noise in the buildings. So it wasn't obviously ideal, but I think it really made everyone, not only our team, but the whole hockey community appreciate when there are fans in the building a lot more.
Yeah, especially as a fan myself. I haven't been to a game since early 2020, and I'm really desperate to get to go to a game, hopefully sometime this upcoming season. So like it makes me as a fan appreciate it even more, but it's good to hear from a player's perspective that you missed it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can kind of contest to that from the fan perspective as well. Just like families and stuff, like, you know, um, we have a lot of Canadians, and I know there's a lot of Canadians that play down here on every team, but nobody was able to even go home and see their family, or their families weren't able to come watch. And watching in person is so different than watching online. So it really does make you appreciate the times where you are able to watch in person and cheer from the stands.
Yeah, it has that type of energy. It's kind of indescribable, just that vibe you have when you, especially as a player, I would assume just going in a full crowd is just a lot different than just an empty stadium, no matter what type of game it might be.
Absolutely.
Now, what was your team's mindset heading into the CHA tournament this year? You finished in third place, so you didn't get that bye. And obviously, your team wasn't the favorite to win the CHA tournament before it started, with teams like Penn State having a really good regular season. So what was your team's mindset heading into the tournament, heading into your first game, before everything you kind of went on that run?
I think for us, we had a lot of veteran players this year. So we only had 3 incoming freshmen on the team. So there were a lot of people that had been through the heartbreak at least one time of losing in the CHA finals. So for us, I think it was just like, this is our time. Like, it's not just like talking the talk anymore. Like, we need to walk the walk. So especially for us seniors, we had lost in the finals the previous 3 years. So it was just our time. Like, we knew that how badly we wanted it, and we weren't leaving there without getting it. And I think that having only 3 freshmen, they were the only ones that hadn't felt that before. Everyone else had at least felt it one time and knew how much it sucked to feel that heartbreak. And then, you talk about it and you tell them, like, hey, look, you felt it once. Like, I felt it twice for some people, or I felt it 3 times for us seniors. And like, it's a terrible feeling. So I think that we were just so determined this year, more determined than we've ever been. And I think that was a really good mindset for us heading into the tournament.
Yeah, in the second game of the CHA playoffs, you played Mercyhurst and won that game in overtime. It was a great game to watch. What did you take away from that game overall, and what was your reaction when Maggie scored that overtime winner goal in that game? Because it was pretty cool to see your team's reaction, and it kind of gave you guys a little bit of energy heading into the game against Syracuse the following day.
Yeah, for sure. So for me and for our whole team, and coaches can attest to this as well, but in between the second and third period of that Mercyhurst game, just the energy and the bond that we had in the dressing room, like, our team just became so close. Like, we were just listening to music, some people were dancing, we were all having a good time, and like, everyone was just so happy. And our coaches came into the room before going on the ice, and they could hear people laughing and people like singing and dancing and whatever. And they're like, that's the energy we need. Like, that is exactly it. And I think that culture is what wins you championships, along with like hard work and on ice stuff. But just stuff like that. And anyone who was there at the time can attest to it. Like, we just became so close in the middle of that game between the second and third period. Like, it was like our team just bonded so well. So at that time, I can honestly say I went out in the third period and there was not a thought in my head that we were losing. Like, there was absolutely no thought. Like, 100% we were winning that game. And I never even thought about losing. Like, it wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind. It was like, it was impossible. So for me, I think it was between those 2 periods, our team coming together and us having a lot of fun, that really told me, like, hey, like, we are a family. We want this for each other. We want this for our coaching staff. We want this for our families. Let's go get it done. And we were going to go get it done. And then when Maggie scored, it was just awesome. I remember it so clearly. I was not shocked at all, but just like kind of at a loss for words. Like, I was just so happy. Everyone was screaming. Mercyhurst is a big rival of ours, so it's always really nice beating them and exciting. And considering they put us out in the finals last year in overtime, it was just kind of bittersweet. And I was so happy for Maggie. She had an unbelievable playoff run, unbelievable season as a whole, but getting named MVP of the playoffs, she was so deserving of that. She was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And I'm going to miss those games between Robert Morris and Mercyhurst just from a fan perspective. Like I was talking about earlier, those games were fun to watch just because the battle your teams had back and forth, and your teams are so even as well during your time at Robert Morris. So that's something that I'm going to miss. I'm assuming you're going to miss it a little bit too when you're at Ohio State next year.
Yeah, definitely. Those games they always got you a little bit more excited as a player, and I'm sure as a fan as well. There's just something about playing Mercyhurst that you just bring more energy. Somehow you find every little piece of energy you have and you bring it, and you battle for the full 3 periods and overtime if needed. And yeah, it's just really gritty hockey games, and it's really rewarding when you beat them because they are huge rivals, and it's a rivalry that's been going on for years. Anyone you talk to, any alumni, will say the same thing. So it's just so amazing just beating them, and then in a big game like that too, and a big overtime win, that was huge.
Yeah, no, when you play your rivals, you obviously hate them, but in the back of your head, you kind of like those games more and you have a little bit of respect for those opponents just because it makes playing hockey much more fun, in my opinion. Like, I'm a huge Bruins fan and I hate the Montreal Canadiens, but those games are so much fun to watch. And I have a little bit of respect in the back of my head when we play the Montreal Canadiens just because those games against the Bruins are very fun. I'm assuming it's kind of the same for you when you play for Mercyhurst as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something that you get really excited for. You don't like them, but it's a game that you look forward to.
So in the CHA final, you played Syracuse, and from what I took away from that game was the defensive performance that your team had, especially your goaltender and current teammate Reagan Kirk. She played outstanding in that entire game, getting the shutout and winning that game 1-0. What'd you take away from that game, and how did it feel to win the CHA championship, especially after winning it as a senior, but also because of losing the final the previous 3 years as well?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. It was like indescribable. After losing 3 years, it kind of gets defeating, like losing over and over again. And you work so hard and you make it to the finals and then you lose. So, like I said earlier, like we were winning, we weren't leaving without winning. And we had such a great mindset going into it that I think really helped us. But then when you actually do it and you actually win, it's just such an unbelievable feeling. And raising that trophy and getting to celebrate with my teammates was just absolutely amazing. And yeah, the game was very tight, 1-0 win, and Reagan was a hero for us, like absolutely lights out. She was awesome. Um, what was really cool actually about our team is that Reagan was able to rest up for the week leading up to the games because we played our goalie Molly in the quarterfinal game, and then Ariel played in the semifinal game, and then Reagan was able to play in the final game. So it was really awesome that she got to rest into that moment, and she really, really came out for us that day, and she was huge. And I think that when, not that you could ever blame a goalie for a loss or anything, but I think that when your goalie comes to play and is making huge saves consistently, like you build energy off that. And I think that she was continuously making those big saves, and it just gave us more energy and allowed us to get that win.
Yeah, not many teams can say they have three goalies that could start for them. It's very rare to see that. Most teams, from pro perspective, only have that one goalie that they go to most of the time, and then they have the backup. So that's pretty cool that your team had three goalies that you can just throw in and they can get the job done. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It was really awesome. And I think that a lot of people doubted us moving into the games. Kind of people thought we were crazy. Like, what is the coaches doing? Like, why are they doing this? But I think for us, like, as a team, like, no matter who was in net, we felt confidence with them all. And they proved themselves throughout the years to give us that confidence and allow us to gain that confidence for them and for each other. And I think that's huge. And no matter who was in net, every single night we were going out there and working our butts off and trying to get the win no matter what.
Now we have to talk about the Instagram photo that you took after the CHA championship win, because that might have been the coldest pic I've ever seen in my life with you and the trophy. What was going through your head when you posted that? I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I was just honestly like just so happy, like on cloud nine, to be honest with you. Like I said, all those years of losing and then to finally win, I was just so thrilled. And getting to raise that trophy is a feeling like no other. Winning any championship is amazing, but then when you're the one that actually gets to receive that trophy and raise that trophy, it's a feeling like no other. It's actually indescribable. So it was just such a surreal feeling. And then getting that picture that captured it all kind of just summed up all the emotions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you played in the national tournament the next week against Northeastern. How did your team prepare against Northeastern, especially since they were the number one team in the country heading into the tournament this past season? And what was it like playing against them, playing against some of the best players in the world that team has?
Yeah, it was definitely a great experience for us heading back up to Erie and then playing in the national tournament. And I think that playing against those athletes that are, some of them Olympians, world class athletes, I think that it's a great experience for us all. It was something we had never experienced. Playing in the CHA, you play the same few teams over and over again, and especially last year, being a COVID year, you didn't get to play out of conference really. So it was a really good experience for all of us. And as far as like getting there and preparing for it, I think that we knew that we just had to bring our game and kind of stick to our tendencies, which is like hard work and grittiness. We weren't a very skilled team, I wouldn't say, as far as individual skill. But we knew we had a lot of hard work ethic, and that was what was going to take us farther than anything.
Yeah, that's awesome to see. And unfortunately, that ended up being your last game with Robert Morris. So, what do you overall take away from your whole RMU hockey experience? And for all the RMU hockey fans that are listening to this podcast, do you have like a message to them about how they treated you and all of that?
Yeah, my message to any RMU fans would be thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being there for us. You made my 4 years there great. Without them, we wouldn't have been what we were we wouldn't have been what we were, and we wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we did. Fans and supporters are such a crucial part of teams, organizations. And so I think that, they may not seem like it, they may not think they're doing much, but to all of us athletes, we really appreciate them, and we couldn't do it without them. And for me, I hope the program gets brought back so that little girls and little boys for years to come are able to have the experience that I was able to have there, which was an awesome experience. And they're able to have role models to look up to in the future. And I think that's really important in such a hockey community. And as Pittsburgh is such a hockey city, and I think that it's important to have those older role models for those young kids to look up to. Because times change, and when they're younger, they're like, oh, I want to be like them. And then they go through their middle age of playing, and there's tough times where kids want to quit, move on to other things and stuff. But if they have somebody to look up to and see a future in a team that they can play for, I feel like it'll keep them driven and keep them in the sport longer. And as far as takeaways from Robert Morris, I think that one of the biggest takeaways for me was that hard work and like a good culture will win championships. Like I said, we weren't the most skilled team, and we were able to win a championship based on hard work and the amazing culture we built. But also enjoy every moment like it's your last, because you really never know when it will be. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for all of us athletes whose programs got discontinued as far as men's and women's hockey. I think that just enjoying every moment like it's your last, because you seriously don't know when it will be. I never knew that game against Northeastern was going to be my last game wearing that jersey. I fully thought I had another year there. And as much as it's disappointing, hindsight's great. I wish I would have, savored it a little more and been more appreciative for the time I spent in that jersey, and played every game like it was my last.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. From growing up, like I'm a big UConn hockey fan, and I remember watching Maxim Latunov a couple of years ago when he was with UConn. It was like a player that I looked up to, that many people probably might not even heard of him or looked up to him. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, just how important some college hockey programs are to that community.
Yeah, for sure. And we did a little sister, big sister program when I was there. And so our little sisters were the U10 Penns Elite team. And I think for them, like getting to see role models and getting to come on the ice with us for the national anthem, and just getting to experience things like that was huge. And brings the biggest smile to their face. And to think that the community won't be able to do that anymore, and to think those little girls don't have that opportunity to do that anymore and people to look up to, it's really disappointing.
Now, have all your teammates found a new home since the program got canceled? Because your team's fantastic, and all of them deserve a chance to play college hockey again. And I feel like each team would love to have a player like all the players on your team had.
Yeah, so unfortunately, not everyone has been able to land a spot for next year. A lot of people have, between playing pro, like Leah Marino, and then there's three of us at Ohio State, and then there's a few other girls that have found Division I schools to play at. Um, One girl is going to Division III, and a couple girls are headed back to U Sports, the Canadian University League. So a lot of people have found a chance to play somewhere else for next year, but the tough part for some people was academically transferring,
Mm-hmm.
as if there wasn't already enough battles to face with the transfer portal. Some people were unable to transfer academically due to credits, and like rising seniors, it's a really tough time to transfer when you're going into your senior year, just because if you're expecting to still only have one more year to finish, it's really tough because credits don't always transfer places, and then you might have to take an extra year, or sometimes it's just really confusing for some people and just not feasible. So I think that a vast majority of people have found places to play, which has been awesome. But I do still really feel for those who will be done their hockey careers and play their last game without even knowing it.
Yeah, no, that's disappointing. I hope all your teammates at Robert Morris have found a home in hockey soon, or already if they already found a home. So I hope that happens, because I saw that your teammate Michaela Boyle committed to Boston College. So that was good to see. I haven't seen some of the other teammates where they've committed, so I was just curious to hear your perspective on that. But we're now in the segment I like to call the non-hockey segment. As you know, just a couple of questions just to get to know you a little bit off the ice. So my first question to you is, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
For me, I think I would have lunch with Marie Fulop, just because she is like an icon in Canadian hockey, Canadian women's hockey, and just she's been doing so much to try and grow the game. And I think that's something that's really important to me too, is growing the game of women's hockey for years to come, and for that next generation of girls to be able to play. Everyone kind of looks up to people, and I think that it's really important to grow the game to the next level, so that generations for years and years from now have equal opportunities. And so along with her growing the game and being a Canadian icon as far as women's hockey, I think that just like her leadership and her class is something I really look up to. And she presents herself so well, and I think that just getting to sit down with her and talk to her about how she's been so successful would be something that I'd be really interested in.
Have you gotten the chance to meet any of the members of the Canadian national women's hockey team?
Just Emma Malte, actually,
Oh,
who's in Ohio State, who played at Ohio State. I actually played with her in spring hockey growing up, so we've known each other for quite a few years. And when I first came down from Pittsburgh to Columbus in July, I was able to spend the day with Emma and just kind of
awesome.
catch up with her. So it was awesome.
Yeah, no, because I was looking at the roster for this year's World Championships, and I remember seeing Marie Philippoulin on the 2010 Olympic roster, and 11 years later, she's still one of the best players on the Canadian team for the World Championship. So I'm excited to see her play and kind of be that veteran presence for that Canadian team for this year's championship.
Yeah, for sure. And she brings like a lot of leadership there. And I think when she does eventually decide to retire, I think that that's going to be a big loss for Canada as far as like leadership skill and
Hmm.
everything she brings. So
Yeah, her and Hillary Knight always going at it at the big championships for U.S. and Canada for women's hockey. It's something that it's like kind of like Messi and Ronaldo for soccer, just for women's hockey. So I'm definitely gonna. Hopefully that day doesn't come for a little bit longer. I hope not. I know most hockey fans probably agree with me on that.
yes, for sure. Yeah, the rivalry of Canada
Mhm.
and USA is always a good one to watch.
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week, whether it's hockey related or non-hockey related?
So I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Crossroads, and it's by Caleb Dahlgren.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, but he was a Humboldt Bronco that was involved in the bus crash back in 2018. It's just kind of a story about him and his life and kind of overcoming his injuries and kind of overcoming everything from the bus crash. So I'm not too far in it, but I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of it. I think it'll be a really interesting book. And being a Canadian, I mean, the world knows, and the world was really kind of hurt and upset, and obviously by the crash. But being a Canadian, it kind of hits closer to home. And reading about his story is just it's very inspiring to see what he went through and then kind of where he is now.
Yeah, I know. I saw an interview with him a couple months ago, and just to hear his story is, like you said, very inspiring. And it's unimaginable to go through something like that. So I definitely have to get my hands on that book. I didn't even know he wrote a book, so I definitely got to check that out when I have the chance.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not, like I said, I'm not too far, but I think it'll be a really good read.
Now, for me, the most interesting thing I saw and read was Lionel Messi leaving Barcelona and going to PSG. I just thought it was interesting just because he's been with that club for his whole life pretty much since he was a kid. And then he's making the transition to PSG, and just the whole situation with that. I thought it was interesting just because I think a lot of, at least Americans, might not realize how big European soccer is and just how much money is involved with that sport.
Yeah, definitely. And I had heard a little bit about that too, and I was very shocked.
Mhm. So, what music do you like to listen to, whether it's a general basis or just before a game as well?
I'm a big country music fan. It kind of a little bit slower and kind of puts me at ease a little bit with everything. I'm not too crazy. You don't need to all this pump up music, but yeah, I'm a big country fan.
I'm the opposite with you. I like hip hop, EDMs, especially before a game. That definitely fires me up. I want to be like a ball of energy when I go out on the ice. I'm not like one of those players that just needs to like calm down before a game. So I feel like it's different with each player. So,
Yeah, definitely.
well, what's your biggest pet peeve? It doesn't seem like many things bother you, at least watching you play on the ice. But is there anything off the ice that might bother you a little bit?
Um, yeah, like you said, not a lot of things bother me, honestly. I'm pretty easygoing and pretty hard to rattle, but I think one thing that does bother me is loud chewers. I just can't seem to get over them.
Mhm.
When you're eating at the same table and you can hear other people chew, it just kind of gets to me just a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. For me, it's bad driving. I think it's whenever I need to go someplace and someone just is not the best driver, it definitely makes me frustrated. So that'll probably be my biggest pet peeve.
That's a good one. That is very true. I not that I get super frustrated because I've definitely driven with some people that have slight road rage, so I just think it's kind of funny driving with them. But there
Yeah.
are some really bad drivers out there that you're just kind of questioning how they got their license.
Yeah, no, especially here in where I'm from, Massachusetts, it's the hardest state to get a driver's license. And I read that somewhere. So I definitely like to tell people that just because I feel like it shows that I might be a good driver. But some of these drivers here, even with the hardest state to get a driver's license, it's not the best. So I feel like people here drive differently than other states. So maybe that could be it too.
I can attest to that. Michaela Boyle, I would say she's a very good driver, but sometimes crazy
Mm-hmm.
as far as she can just zoom in and out of traffic pretty good.
Now, speaking of pet peeves on the ice, what player was the best chirper pest on the ice you've ever played with? I'm curious from your perspective since we're on that topic.
That I've ever played against.
Or a teammate you might have had in the past.
Um, I would say a teammate would be Natalie Marcuzzi. She was a class older than me, so I didn't play with her this past season, but I did the three before that. She had a knack for chirping the other team. But as far as played against, like I honestly don't think anyone's really ever chirped me on the ice.
Yeah, because
So
you're a star player. That's what I've noticed. Like, you don't go after the star player just because then they can just burn you on a goal. So that could be it as well. But yeah, no, I'm just curious because I feel like no one really talks about chirping regarding women's hockey versus men's hockey. So I just curious
yeah.
to hear that perspective from other players.
Yeah, there's definitely been girls on my team that have got chirped because they just kind of come back to the dressing room between periods and they laugh about it and they kind of joke about what they said and stuff.
Mhm.
But I don't honestly think anyone's ever chirped me.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised. I guess I'm not. I don't know. I think it just depends on each player, I guess. Maybe you just haven't even realized it. That could be as well.
Yeah, maybe I do kind of tend to like zone people out. Like when I'm in the game, like it's kind of just like my focus is on like what I need to do and kind of listening for my teammates. Like I kind of zone the other team out, to be honest. So they very well could have hurt me, and I just kind of
Yeah.
one ear and in one ear and out the other.
Yep. No, I'm kind of the same way. I just really didn't focus on that when I played. So we have the same mindset on that, which is pretty cool to see. Now, final non-hockey question for you is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
That's a tough one, but I think I would probably go with someone like Jennifer Aniston, just because I really like the show Friends. So I think that she's a really well-known actress too, and just kind of is really good at what she does, and is funny and can be serious but also funny at the same time. So she can play a lot of different roles, and I think that's kind of me. Like I like to joke around, but I'm serious when it comes time to be serious as well.
Hmm. For me, I would probably be he's not an actor, but Tom Brady, just because I want to have someone that plays me that looks good. So like in future generations, when they see the movie, they think I'm like a good looking guy when I might not be. So that would definitely be one. And Tom Brady also overcame a lot for his career. So it'd be cool to have one of my favorite athletes play myself in a movie about me, which may
Yeah,
never happen, but I think it'll be cool.
absolutely. Yeah, that would be awesome. And he's obviously an unbelievable athlete, so that'd be really
Mhm.
cool.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. What are your thoughts on the podcast since we last had you on? I'm curious. I feel like I've improved a little bit since I last interviewed you. So just your overall thoughts on the podcast since last year.
Yeah, no, the podcast is awesome. And I really enjoy listening to all the guests you have on. And I think that for me, like the best thing about it is like bringing awareness, especially to like women's hockey. You have a lot of like female athletes on here, and I think that that's awesome. And it allows people to hear from them and kind of understand that, women's hockey is legit. And I think that's so cool, and something I appreciate the most about it is you growing the game of women's hockey. And it may not seem like it directly, like you're not out there, holding a sign that says support women's hockey, but you're supporting it in a lot of other ways. So it's really awesome to see, and it's awesome to see how much you've grown as far as how much like attention your podcast has gotten. And yeah, it's really awesome, and I really appreciate everything you do.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Lexi. It means a lot. And yeah, that's one of my goals when I started the podcast was to help grow women's hockey since I am a big fan of the sport. And it's cool to see that the players have been very willing to come on and talk about their experiences. So from my perspective, I'm very lucky to have this platform and able to talk about a sport I love and just help grow the sport as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And um, the world needs more people like you who don't need to necessarily, directly show everyone like, hey, look, I'm supporting a cause, but, through something you're liking and enjoying doing, you're actually supporting a lot more people than you think. So it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I hope it brings awareness to other players as well, just because I'm a big fan of college hockey just in general. So hopefully some men's players that might follow the account who may not really know about women's hockey may have just gotten that awareness by following the account, which I also think is important as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Now, is there any guests that we should have on in the future from Robert Morris or maybe a junior team that you used to play on, or maybe some of your current teammates right now with Ohio State? Anyone that would be interesting to talk to that I might have not interviewed so far?
I think Reagan, I'm not sure if you've interviewed her, but I
No.
think she'd be really interesting to talk to. She has a lot of success in her background as far as Hockey Canada and, winning worlds, and then with the under 18 team as well. So she's had quite the hockey story, I guess you'd say, growing up. And I think she'd be really awesome to talk to, as well as one of my good friends from RMU, Ariel Desmet. She's a transfer. She's going to be heading to Syracuse in the fall, and she's a goalie as well. And just kind of on her experience, maybe like playing with Reagan and
Mhm.
playing with RMU, and now her transfer situation. But I'm pretty sure you've talked to Michaela Boyle.
I have.
Yeah,
She's
she's
awesome.
awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is
No,
really.
really, really, really good player. And to hear her story, how she came from Clarkson all the way to Robert Morris and kind of elevate her career is pretty cool to hear, which I didn't really know too much about until I talked to her.
Yeah, she has quite the the story as well, as far as that she'll now be heading to her third school. So,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously unfortunate that she has to transfer again, but I'm really excited for her, and that's kind of been her dream
Hmm.
to go to BC. So I'm really happy for her and can't wait to see all the success she has.
Yeah, especially since I was reading how she's good friends with Kayla Barnes, who won a gold medal with Team USA in 2018. So now they're going to be playing together, not this season, but the 2022 season. So I think that's going to be cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's really good friends with Kayla, and I know they're both excited to be playing together, which will be awesome. And I can't wait to hopefully catch some games with them or to watch them
Mhm.
the year following on when I'm done here.
Yeah, no, it's kind of weird to talk about not next season, but the season after that. Yeah. But was there anything you'd like to talk about? The floor is all yours. Maybe a quick shout out to somebody or just anything else you like to talk about?
I think just a shout out to all the hockey fans and people that listen to this and support college hockey as a whole. I think that a big thank you to them, and just because what the support that they give us as college athletes is really important. And although it may not seem like it, we really appreciate it a lot. And it allows us to have wonderful college experiences, getting to play the game that we love. So a big thank you to everyone that supports college hockey as a whole, as well as the podcast and you for doing what you do for all of us.
Well, thank you once again, Lexi, for coming on the podcast again. I really appreciate it. I admire you a lot as a player, but you're also an even better person off the ice, and I want to let you know that. Take care, stay safe, and I can't wait to watch Ohio State play next season. Unfortunately, you guys aren't coming to the East Coast, so I can't see you play in person, but hopefully sometime soon in the following years.
Yes, for sure. And thank you so much for having me on again. It was awesome talking to you, and I really enjoyed being on.
Now.